Welcome to the deep dive. Usually we're digging into, external systems, big complex things out there. But today we're turning inward, really inward. We're tackling this really quiet challenge someone sent us, that feeling when you stand in front of the mirror. And you're not just like checking if your shirt's on right. You're asking that huge question, who? Who am I really?
Yes, that moment. It's almost universal, isn't it? That existential pause, the mirror, it gives back so much data practice looks, history etched in lines, how tired you are today. It shows symbols, right? The professional suit, the parent's exhaustion, maybe the shadow of a past mistake. But somehow, with all that detail, it feels like it misses the actual point.
Yeah, exactly. That miss, that feeling that the reflection is, I don't know, a very convincing lie. That's our starting point today. Our mission, really, is to unpack the psychology behind how we see ourselves. We're going to use Gestalt psychology's pretty radical insights to dissolve that fixed frame of self-image and try to find where the real dynamic you actually lives.
And the first crucial thing to grasp right off the bat is that the mirror, or any internal picture you have, it doesn't reflect you, not the whole you anyway. It reflects what we call a figure. Think of it as a temporary constellation. Traits, postures, pulled together by expectations, fears, the social roles you're in, so you're not actually seeing yourself. You're seeing the role you've learned to play, even when you're just looking at yourself.
That's a really key distinction. We talk about self-awareness like passing the mirror test that chimps and dolphins do. We celebrate that. But for humans, it seems we instantly jump beyond just recognizing the reflection. We go straight into identification. We see the body, sure, but then we immediately wrap it in a story.
Exactly. Identification is the key word there. Yeah. The mirror stops being just a reflector of, physics and biology. It becomes a screen, and we project our biography onto it. I am the successful one, or I'm the one who always messes this up. It becomes this personal mythology, often a very restrictive one, and we mistake that story, that myth, for the solid truth. And right there, the living, breathing process of being gets frozen into a static picture.
Okay, so let's unpack that dynamic process more. This feels like where Gestalt theory really offers something different. If the self isn't this fixed thing, this noun, it has to be a verb, right? An action. How does Gestalt describe that action?
Well, the self is best understood as this ongoing process. It's figuration. Gestalt psychology isn't really asking, who are you, fundamentally. It's asking, how are you appearing to yourself right now in this moment within the whole field of your perception? The self is the shape, the figure that momentarily stands out from this vast swirling background, the ground.
Okay, figure and ground. Those can sound a bit academic. Let's make that concrete. What exactly is the ground in this sense?
The ground is, well, it's everything else. It's the entire context, the feel of the chair you're sitting on, the temperature in the room, a fleeting memory of breakfast, the low hum of anxiety maybe, tension in your shoulders you haven't noticed, the promise you made yesterday, the grief you haven't processed. It's this huge, rich, mostly unnoticed background of potential experience. And the figure is just whatever grabs your attention, whatever rises out of that background for a moment and becomes clear.
Got it. So like right now, focusing on your voice, that's the figure for me. The background noise, the feeling of the headphones, maybe wondering what's for lunch later, that's all the ground. But if, say, a loud siren started outside,
then the figure instantly shifts. The siren becomes the dominant focus, The ground rearranges. And it's exactly the same internally. You could be walking along, feeling generally okay, that feeling is the ground. Then suddenly you remember sending that awkward email, wham! The heat of embarrassment becomes the sharp, defined figure, pushing everything else back.
Okay, now this is where it gets super interesting for me, thinking of the mirror again. Usually we're just sort of flowing, right? The verb to be is active, but then you catch your reflection, a mirror, a shop window, whatever, and it feels like it interrupts that flow. It freezes the moving river into a snapshot. Why does that visual feedback make a specific identity, a certain figure, snap into place so fast?
Because that reflection, especially the mirror, it almost demands a performance. It's deeply ingrained socially, and it becomes a screen, and we instantly, unconsciously project onto it the sum total of our roles, how we compare ourselves, all our self-judgments. We're not just passively seeing an image, we are actively constructing a self-image, and usually immediately judging it against some internal ideal. It's like we become our own filmmaker, and often a very critical one, in that moment.
That makes sense of what you called universal mirror dysmorphia. Not the clinical condition, but that everyday thing. You look and bam, you lock onto one tiny detail, a wrinkle, how you're standing, a spot. And that single flaw becomes the entire figure, right? Everything else vanishes.
Precisely. And the very second that detail becomes the figure, Everything else, your capacity for connection, your aliveness, your sense of humor, your resilience, it all just fades into the unexamined ground. We mistake that temporary configuration, which is often shaped by the immediate need or context, for the whole picture. So if you're feeling ashamed, your flaws become figure. If you just got praised, maybe your confidence becomes figure. It's entirely dependent.
So the real crap is collapsing the whole field. We feel something like adrenaline surge, and we don't think, okay, my system, my field is organizing anxiety right now. We jump straight to the noun, I am anxious, full stop. Reducing this whole complex symphony of being alive down to one single tense note.
And it gets worse. When that figure, that I'm anxious or I am a failure, stops being fluid, stops responding to the changing ground, it hardens, it solidifies, it becomes what we call an introject. Think of introjects like perceptual fossils, rigid, unexamined beliefs about yourself, usually swallowed whole from somewhere else, parents, society that now parades around as your own authentic truth.
Okay, how do I know if something is an introject? I mean, can I not say I'm tired sometimes? Does everything have to be, I am experiencing tiredness? That sounds exhausting.
No, it's not about policing language quite like that. It's more about the flexibility. Saying, I feel tiredness organizing in me now, leaves room for change. It's a state. An introject is more like a non-negotiable definition, it sounds like. I am fundamentally lazy, or I must always be perfect, I am unlovable. These are rigid rules, often imported from childhood, treated as internal law. They feel like who you are deep down.
And what keeps these introjects locked in place? What gives them their power?
Very often, they are fueled by unfinished business. This is a huge concept in Gestalt. Unfinished business refers to unresolved Gestalt loops that never closed. Words left unsaid, grief that wasn't fully felt, anger that was suppressed, boundaries that were never asserted. This stuff doesn't just vanish when we push it down. It sinks into the ground. But it's active down there. It hums, it pulls, it constantly tries to complete itself by hijacking new figures in the present.
Wow. That idea that we're essentially running scripts from years ago without realizing it, that's quite unsettling. Can you give an example? How does that leakage work in, say, an everyday situation?
Sure. Let's imagine someone had a parent who consistently minimized their achievements, and they swallowed the interject, my best is never good enough. Right? That hurt, that frustration, maybe anger, was never resolved. It's unfinished. Now, fast forward 20 years. They're in a work meeting. Their current boss offers some constructive criticism on a project. Maybe the boss even slightly resembles the parent in tone or manner.
So the present situation triggers the old pattern, the old feeling.
Exactly. The intense reaction may be disproportionate defensiveness, sudden anger, feeling crushed. It isn't just about the feedback in the room. The figure of the current reaction is being massively amplified, hijacked by the powerful emotional energy still buzzing in the ground from that old, unfinished relationship. That past loop is echoing, loud and clear in the present moment, and the person mistakes the echo for the reality of the current situation.
So we're basically projecting these unclosed loops onto whatever screen is available, a partner, a boss, even the bathroom mirror. Okay, if our self is really an effect, the way the field organizes itself, and not the cause of our experience, how on earth do we change the field? How do we reorganize it?
We shift our attention. Fundamentally, that's the leverage point. We start to realize, for instance, you don't have confidence like it's a possession stored inside you. Instead, the field, your whole system in its context, when it's organized under conditions of safety, presence, and maybe some completed gestalts, it spontaneously generates confidence as the dominant figure. You don't force confidence, you cultivate the conditions for it to naturally emerge.
Wait a second. If attention creates the figure, focusing on lack makes me the one who lacks, focusing on possibility makes me the one who dares, isn't that just positive thinking? Slap a happy sticker on it?
It's actually profoundly different, because positive thinking often tries to impose a figure, I am happy, onto a ground that's full of sadness or fear. Right? It ignores the ground. Gestalt says, don't fight the figure. Don't try to suppress the anxiety or the sadness directly. Instead, turn your awareness towards the ground. Ask, what is organizing this anxiety? What tension here needs attention? What old story is playing out again? What needs completion?
Okay, so you change the field by completing the Gestalt, saying the unsaid thing, finally feeling the unfelt feeling, letting that old loop finally close. And once that pent-up energy is discharged, the whole structure of the field can shift, allowing new, maybe more helpful figures to emerge naturally.
Precisely. And this connects to a really deep principle called isomorphism. Isomorphism suggests that the structure of your inner world, your inner field, fundamentally mirrors the structure of how you perceive and experience your outer world.
Okay, structural mirroring. That sounds big. What does that look like in practice?
Well, if your inner field is fragmented, full of unresolved conflicts, rigid introjects, lots of unfinished business, if your inner landscape is inherently fractured, your outer life will tend to feel chaotic. You might experience it as chronic disorganization, relationships that feel unstable, constantly feeling overwhelmed. The key insight is you aren't just passively experiencing chaos out there. You are actively organizing your perception of the world as chaotic because your inner structure is fragmented. But if you work on changing that inner structure, completing those old gestalts, integrating those split off parts, the outer world begins to reorganize itself perceptually. You start noticing connection, order, resources, calm that were simply invisible to you before.
So it's less about whack-a-mole with specific problems and more about addressing the underlying internal tension that keeps generating those problems. That really puts the agency back with the perceiver, not the reflection.
It absolutely does. And this brings us really to the final, perhaps most liberating rupture, which is the realization that you will never, ever truly see yourself. Because perception needs distance, and you can't be distant from yourself, the one doing the perceiving.
Exactly that. You are the perceiver. You are the seeing, the awareness itself. And that which sees cannot simultaneously step outside itself to become the object being seen. The fixed, solid self we desperately search for in the mirror isn't just well hidden, it's fundamentally uncontainable. It's too fluid, too immediate, too vast to be pinned down by an image, a thought, or a story.
So Selpin, the whole goal shifts. Stop searching for the self as a noun, as a thing to be found and defined, and start living the self as a verb, as a process, a happening, maybe. Stop looking so hard and start being in contact with the world.
Yes. The self is best understood as a contact event. It happens, it comes alive right at the boundary where you meet, not you. It's in that precise moment your breath meets the air, your eyes meet the horizon, your words meet another person's listening, your feet meet the earth. That boundary moment, that point of real, authentic meeting, that is where the you you're looking for actually happens. Which means, counterintuitively perhaps, we don't find ourselves by retreating further inside to stare at an internal image. We find ourselves by leaning out, by engaging with the world. The only place to truly find yourself is in the midst of that robust, present contact in real dialogue, in taking a risk, in laughing fully, in grieving completely. So true self-awareness isn't just introspection, it's field awareness, sensing the whole context.
The ghost you see in the mirror is always waiting, frozen in its familiar story. But the truth is, you don't actually live in that static image. You never did. You live in the aliveness that's unfolding moment by moment, right here, behind the glass, so to speak.
Wow, okay. So we started this deep dive looking for a fixed identity in the mirror.
Yeah.
And we've ended up realizing the mirror is, well, kind of empty. It only ever reflects the symbol, the fiction, the ghost we mistook for home. Maybe the ultimate act of self-kindness is to dissolve that image and reconnect with the living process.
Step out of the frame. Live right there, at the boundary.
So here's the final challenge for you listening. The next time you find yourself in front of a mirror or any reflective surface, try using it differently. Not as a source of truth about who you are, but as a reminder, a prompt. Don't search for the fixed figure. Try just for a second to sense the whole field. Feel the ground under your feet, notice the sounds around you, sense the lingering hum of the past, the open possibility of the next moment. Let that rigid story you have about yourself soften. Let the edges blur a little. And maybe, for just a fleeting instant, touch the deeper truth. You are not what you see in the reflection. You are the seeing itself. You are the living contact. And that contact, that engagement with the world right now, that's everything.